I'm here with Jason Hoffman, CTO and founder of Joyent. Jason, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Cool.
Yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. So, can you tell me a little bit about Joyent for those people who aren't aware of what it is and what you do and how you all came to be?
Well, Joint's a 6-year-old company, and we basically provide virtual data centers to people. So really pretty much optimize architectures of, well, online appliances. Meaning if you actually want to run a Java Oracle application, a PHP MySQL application, and you actually buy that like as a cohesive thing. You get PHP app servers, a MySQL cluster, load balancing, that sort of thing, all as part of one solution. But that's not really all that we do. I mean, the base thing that we do is we actually believe that the next computer is a data center. And like most computers, this new computer, the data center, needs an operating environment, an open API, and a good set of developer tools.
And so, can you tell me a little bit about your background, and how you got to Joyent in the first place?
How did I get to Joyent?
Right, to founding it.
Yeah, well, I mean, my background's really predominantly in computational chemistry, then biology, and then headed down for med school a bit, did a doctorate in pathology. And found myself basically doing large-scale scientific problems, if you will, using a lot of computers. And became pretty good at building really what are, pretty sort of highly efficient, highly utilized types of infrastructures to accomplish a given task. Right? So that's what I did with computers a lot. And I remember in about 2003 or so, reading like a Forbes or a Business Week article, I forget, about Google, and how Google was very excited that they had essentially indexed the entire internet and cached it, that this cache was something like 2 petabytes in size. And I was sort of struck by how small that was. Because, at least in my field at the time, sometimes we would generate 2 petabytes of data in 2 to 4 weeks. And that, companies were getting excited with terabytes of data, or people were excited with a terabyte-sized database. And yet we were doing 4 to 6 terabytes to back-end storage per hour. And so, as a end consumer of compute, I was sort of looking at the online space and corporate IT and gaming and web applications, and thought that a lot of the types of efficiencies that we'd come up with in my field, and how to do large-scale utilizations and so on like that, could be applied to what was essentially a hosting environment, but a hosting environment that could actually compete with system vendors. Meaning that our customers are typically deciding between being on our infrastructure or doing things themselves.
And so, who would be some of the examples of the people? I know you've got thousands of customers that are using your services today. Who would be some of those examples?
They range from, a lot of the top Facebook applications are on our infrastructure, and sort of have been as a result of that partnership. Online media companies, TV studios, movie studios, music studios, and a lot of online retailers and that sort of thing. So we tend to fit in that space, if you will. We tend to fit in a very similar, areas like a content delivery network. But instead of doing like static object delivery over the web, we do dynamic anything object delivery over any protocol, basically, right? So you're able to put your applications up and get the same kind of, good distribution and scalability that you get otherwise.
And now you've been doing this as a public cloud service that you make available for others. You've also been doing some of this as well on the private cloud side?
Yeah, actually, probably our first formulation of this in a way was, private cloud implementation for a large system vendor at one point. And then we, publicly put it out there as a service offering in 2006. And our business model has always been along the idea that we're an operator, a creator, and an enabler of these technologies. And what that means is that we're somewhat unique as a company, in that we're the only company I know of that owns and operates infrastructure, has written all the software that runs it, and then actually has a business model that allows people to either be on a public cloud, be on a private cloud, or be in some sort of combination of the two.
And now, you're going to be working very shortly with Dell, or you already are, I should say. What is it that you're going to be doing together with Dell?
They're essentially going to be our private cloud arm of the company, meaning that We do operate a public cloud infrastructure that people can participate in. We do actually do like private instantiations within that. And then a very common question we get is, well, can you actually come into our data center and actually help us set up 12, 24, 48, racks of what you typically put in racks with the software that you've written running on top of it. And so we obviously we're not a hardware company, and or even sort of a system integrator from that point of view. Fundamentally, we write software and operate infrastructure. So the partnership with Dell is very much going to be going into opportunities like that with our software running on Dell hardware and our operational expertise in combination with Dell's service expertise, and putting together some pretty unique offerings so that I think service providers and corporate IT and everyone like that can essentially become the type of service provider that we are.
Excellent. And then just to end with, where do you see Joyent going as a company over the next couple of years? What are some of the areas that you want to start focusing on or placing more emphasis on as you go forward?
Well, I'm still pretty committed to the idea that just like we went from mainframes to microcomputers to now, what I think of as the data center as the next computer that developers should be writing against. But I want to continue working on, the idea of a operating environment for a data center, an open API for a data center, good set of developer tools for that. And then continuing to extend that API so that it can provide, things of greater wealth to web developers. Meaning not just sort of providing things around provisioning machines or anything like that, but actually doing things that allows them to, plug into the intelligence of decision making based on performance metrics, or interacting with a specific API, for storing files or manipulating images or storing objects and so on like that. So a lot of these sort of higher level platform things is what we've been trying to do with the Smart Platform. How do we actually sort of extend the APIs that are out there for just provisioning virtual machines, because the physical to virtual machine is rather boring as sort of a thing the industry should be doing. To actually, how do we do entire architectures? How do we actually have architectures flex, based on performance and scale needs? And how do we actually begin to introduce APIs and ways of doing things that help developers get what they really want at the end of the day? And what they really want at the end of the day is they want to write an application once, and they want that application to go from no users to 100 million users, and one continent to 4 continents, and one site to 20 sites without a rewrite. And they actually want it to be secure and of great integrity, and actually have business continuity there, and so on like that. So I think we want to continue working on that aspect of things. And then the interesting thing about the engagement with Dell is that we run a public cloud over a bunch of sites, and so the idea of having 20 sites of our own and hundreds of private clouds deployed means that we can actually begin to work on the things that are really interesting. And the things that are really interesting then becomes, well, how do we actually do like cross-administrative and sort of cross-boundary things around security and data policies, and what can live here and what can live there, and then how can we actually even begin to sort of model economic systems on top of that. So meaning that you as a company can look and say, well, this type of data needs to stay within my own data center, but this type of data can go to a public cloud as long as it's in our own instantiations and handle it in a certain way, or this can be sort of mingled throughout. And how can I actually basically do all the things that I want to do with computers for my business, but continuously drive the cost of that down.
Excellent. Jason Hoffman, thank you so much.
Thank you, Barton.